Yeah. Hello, dear ones. I am Leonora from the channel The Awakening Path. And today I have a gift for you. I have a special guest. Her name is Lorena Espiga, and she is a specialist on Akashic Records Reading. I know many of you doesn't even know what's that of Akashic Records, but do not worry about it. She's going to explain to us all about. So, Lorena, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the Awakening Path.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. I know we did a reading quite a long time ago. I don't remember how long ago that was.
Maybe 4 or 5 months.
Oh, wow. I thought it was longer. Yeah. So my name's Lorena. I'll just introduce myself, I guess. Um, and I am an Akashic record reader. I also am a family constellation therapist now, and I work with flower essences and just healing, just a lot of healing for helping people heal. Um, and yeah, I just this path has been so amazing. I'm so happy that there are people like you know, like us that are on this
Yeah,
path and helping others and really helping them see their light, their purpose and heal, you know. I think that's I for me, like, this work is really about just giving people the information because the Akashic records really are about information, so that they can really shine their light, like find who they are and really connect to their purpose and mission. That's that's what makes me
thank
happy.
you.
Yeah.
It's a great introduction. And the purpose of me doing those interviews, I would like people to know they do have options. For me, it sounds very silly when somebody say they are very, very sad and anxious and they take a pill.
Mm.
Because they are anxious, because their mind, their energy, I don't, but let's not go much on that. I just want people to know they have options. And there are many options. I already had one reading for QHHT, hypnosis, and past life regression. And now I'm going to learn about Akashic Records. Just keep in mind, most of my public, they are completely new. There are people that are starting their spiritual path. I like the way you express yourself. You really go from where the person is. If they don't know nothing, and then you explain. So that's really great. That's how we're gonna do today. My first question is, tell us about yourself and how did you get to work with Akashic Records Reading? How did it come through?
Well, it started with opening my own Akashic records a long time ago. I want to say over 20 years ago, probably. Yeah,
Wow.
probably over 20 years ago at this point. And it was because I was getting readings from somebody else. I'm from Uruguay, so I was born in South America, which I think we have something in common there because we're both
Me
from
too,
South
I'm from
America.
Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. We're neighbors. So,
Which
yeah,
country you are?
sorry,
Which country you are?
Uruguay.
Oh, nice. Oh, it's
Uruguay.
very below Brazil.
We're right under you. Yeah, exactly. We're neighbors.
Yes.
Um, so I was getting readings. It was all these things. My mom knew what the Akashic records, which to me, my mom has been like a huge like drive in the spiritual world because she was always very connected, always getting readings and really just like, you know, she's a Reiki master. She kind of like paved the way for my sister and I. My sister also does readings. Um, and it started with me just getting readings from somebody, and then at some point they're like, you can learn to read your own records. I was like, okay. So I did the course and I learned level one, but I had a very, very hard time opening my records. It was very difficult for me. It took me many, many years, I want to say like probably another 15 or maybe 14 years before I actually started like using the records again. I would use them every now and then, but they kind of just fell off my radar. And then where I would felt pulled again to the records later in life was more like when I was going through my own like this dark, like,
Well,
I was,
night of
yeah,
the soul.
yeah, like a dark night of the soul, realizing that I really needed to love myself and value myself more. Um, and I went to therapy. I had like a coach and really kind of just realized I needed to help people, and I stopped getting in my own way. That's the kind of way I like to describe it. And redid level 1, which is reading your own records, and then went straight into level 2, where I just went full in. Like there was no pause. It was like, let me study this, let me finish, let me get my diploma. And I was like, okay, started doing readings for people. And it was scary, right? Because you get better with time as you practice. And some people are just natural. For me, it was always, I doubted myself. It was my own self that got in the way of really being this channel that I am today. Um, because I know people need it, right? So,
I
but
need it.
yeah, I think the records is just so amazing. But that's pretty much how I got into it. It was more about my own self-love journey and realizing that, I think I was also, when we think about, I'm very much into astrology, and there's a part of me that was this healer, right? That was trying to help people, but the people weren't asking for that help. So it was kind of channeled in a way that wasn't very healthy.
Mhm.
So when I did become a reader, it's all of a sudden people could ask me for help, and I was open to it, and there's a container and a structure to it. So I think that's something to think about as well for a lot of people maybe listening, that you find your way to really be intentional with how you use your energy, because I think this gave me the outlet that I needed to see how I could help people.
That's
I
great.
wasn't doing it in the way that like I felt authentic to me, but the records really, the Akashic Records has been so amazing. Like I can't imagine my life without them. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that things always happen in the right time? You don't need to be chasing. If you are chasing too much something, it's because it's not for you or it's not the time,
Yeah.
because it's just happened. So
It
let's
just
move,
happens. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's move on for the next question. Explain what is Akashic Records for someone who never heard about.
Okay.
I don't even know what's my higher self. How are you going to explain that to me?
So I like to kind of let's start from the beginning, right? So imagine or think about our body, right? Our body, something physical. We're in the physical realm, we're on earth, we're here, we're experiencing things, we're touching things, we're feeling things, we're doing things, right? Within ourselves there's a soul that it's like the light of our being, right? Some
Mhm.
people can experience this without even going into the records. They can meditate and realize that there's something more. They feel it, something that pulls them, that connects them to something higher, or they have their own gifts, right? The idea is that our body, without our soul or our higher self, there's different ways to refer to the soul. I like using soul, but some people say higher self. It's the same thing in my mind. That gives us that light, that makes us come to life here with a purpose, with lessons, with things. So the base of the Akashic Records is that we have a soul that is incarnated within our body, and that's what brings us here. Without our soul, we wouldn't really be here.
Yeah,
Um, so the idea with the soul is also that we can reincarnate. So we can have many past lives. We can project to the future and lives that our soul wants to live and things it wants to learn. So within the records, and I'll explain what the records are in a second, we
mm,
can look at past lives, we can look at the present, which is the most important, and we can see the future a little bit too. The records really what it is, when we talk about the Akashic records, we're talking about the book of the soul. So starting from this point of saying that we had past lives, that we have a life we're incarnated in today, us speaking here, we each have our soul with us, and the future that was not written in stone, right? The future, there's possibilities and probabilities. All of that
yeah,
is in our Akashic records. Some people call it the book of life. So it stores all of the information from our soul, everything that it's lived, everything that it's living, and everything that it could live. So you can imagine it this way. I always like this physical way of imagining it. Each soul has a book and it's within the Akashic realm, the Akashic library. So imagine this infinite library that's like so huge. You
I
can't
know
even imagine it,
some people
right?
are kind of imagining, is that like a physical, another dimensional,
It's within a different
ritual?
dimension. Yeah. So when we connect to the records, we're connecting to a higher dimension. We're elevating our energy to connect. So different readers talk about different dimensions. When I talk about the records, I can only speak for myself, obviously. I'm talking about the fifth dimension, right? We're connecting to the
I see.
fifth dimensional energy. And the records, to me, things have shifted around with time. Obviously, we're all in this like great awakening, right? So to me, they can be stored in different vibrations and different dimensions, but I connect with the fifth dimension. So when we open the records, we have access to it to bring down the information through a reading. The book it's like an ethereal, like it's not physical, like we wouldn't be able to see the like here on Earth. It's something higher. It's something spiritual, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen the records, I see people's books, I see the library. There's librarians taking care of that library. So all of that is part of a reading. Another way to look at the Akashic records that I tell people, which I think is easier for our brain, it's like a database. The moment we open the records, it's like we're typing in on our computer what we want to know, and then it's like the screen shows up and it's giving us the information.
Let's get
Um,
a little bit more technical. When you're
yeah,
reading the record of somebody, do you see visions, somebody whisper in your ear, or it's just the thoughts coming to your mind? How it's come to you?
it's feelings in my body, thoughts in my mind, and visions, all of it.
That's great.
Yeah, it used to only be thoughts in my mind, but it's progressed with time. Well, I feel a lot. I'm a feeler. So feeling has always been so that something comes up in my body that I need to say to the person, and that brings up messages. So each
Mm.
reader's different though. Yeah. Of
Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon? Of course you are.
course, who doesn't know Dolores?
So,
Yeah.
Dolores Cannon used to call that the tapestry,
Mm.
remember?
Hmm.
I could imagine like that big hall with lots of mosaics, and each mosaic is a book of one soul.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
people can
it
see it
was
very
really hard to
differently.
visualize that.
Yeah. I think we have to honor how we see that, and we might be shown a different vision. It doesn't matter, right? But I think our own brain plays a role in what we visualize as well, I think sometimes. It's
Yeah.
not that it's right or wrong. It's energetic, so visually it can look different for people.
Let's move on to the next one. When should we look for an Akashic Records reading? What type of help can you get from it?
There are very many readers today. That it's not something that I think maybe even like 5 years ago was even that common. Like I said, I went into this path over 20 years ago. I was getting readings from several people in Uruguay. It was normal, right?
Mhm.
Today, I think we have so many amazing people with gifts that bring in the Akashic records and they can help in different ways. In my case, I think people come to me when they feel stuck, when they feel that they have something that they can't understand, repetitive patterns, emotional things, um, or they feel like there's a gift that they can't develop, that it's there, but they don't understand it. Um, People come to me for many different reasons, from the spiritual questions, like why is my soul here and what do I need to do? What's my purpose? What's my mission? To I'm having this problem in my family. Why is it here and what is it trying to tell me? To what's going to happen in the future. It's so varied. But I think the records where it shines or where people can really get the most out of it is when we come into it open, right? With an open energy. And you might not know what the records are when you go into it, right? When you say, wow, I heard this word, Akashic Records, like, what is it? And you start looking into it and you you get a taste for it, but you need to experience it to really understand it energetically. And you have to come with questions. So if you have questions, it's a really good kind of reading that you can come in and understand yourself, your patterns, your struggles, um, relationships, past lives, the future. But more importantly, the focus is on the present. Like, what is getting in the way of you moving forward with love, with freedom, with feeling like love instead of fear? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think, like I said, tell people, I never try to convince you to do a reading because that would not be good for you or me. You feel it. You feel drawn to it. You'll find the records in very, really ridiculous ways, I say sometimes, right? Like somebody will say it in, like, for example, somebody like will go to a coffee shop and they'll hear the word, they're like Akashic Records, they'll Google it and they'll find it. Or they read it in a book, or somebody mentions that they had a reading. Like it will come
The
into your life.
brain, the higher self is very creative in the ways to convey message to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be very helpful in many different layers and ways. And it goes as deep as you're ready for, right? So you can come with
Yeah.
very surface questions and they'll answer those for you. But where it can be the most helpful and most healing is when we go deep, when we ask those really important questions of why we're struggling or when we want to understand something, right?
Yes.
So, and I think every reader's different too. So we'd have to see, who you feel drawn to and make sure that you feel comfortable with the person.
Mm, can anyone get the ability to learn how to read their own record and others? Let me give a little bit of background on that question.
Hmm.
We are we as human beings, we have the 12 strands of DNA. Long time ago, only two was activated, but many of us already been activated others. And that's mean all of us have the ability to become psychic and get all those gifts, but there is some things on the way that she's gonna explain with that question.
Yeah, I think reading our own Akashic records, we all have the right. We all have, it's our information, right?
Yes,
But I don't think everybody's going to want to learn to read their own Akashic records, right? I think it's more like if you feel drawn to it, do it. For me, it was very hard because I had healing to do to help me get to a point where I could channel clearly. It wasn't that I wasn't channeling because I was channeling. I look back now, I'm like, I was channeling. I just wasn't trusting it. I wasn't ready to go that deep. Um, but the records can be used in many ways. Some people use it for channeling. Some people use it because it just helps them feel more connected to themselves. They can use it in meditation. They can use it for hobbies. They can use it for studying. I think there's a lot of ways that we can use the Akashic records. Some people use like they open their own records to do the Reiki on people because it helps them feel more connected or more open to the energy. So there's many different ways. I teach level 1 and level 2, so reading your own and reading others.
so for the level one, is there any prerequisite or
No.
is there any danger on start to doing?
No, and we talk because my sister and I created the course together. We talk about, protecting your energy and things like that, but it's a very protected space. I always like to explain it that way. And it will only allow you to connect if you have the highest intentions.
I see.
Obviously, we can't just open anybody's records. Level 2, which is opening other people's records, I don't know if everybody really, a lot of people won't go down that path. They don't feel drawn
Do
to
you
that.
need permission to see somebody else's record?
Yeah. Yeah. You need to get the person's permission, their full legal name, and you have to have an opening burst to open the records. I can't just be like, oh, I want to know more about this person. Let me open their records. That's their information. Even like if you think about it this way, when I do readings, I always tell people, I could do a reading for you today, and tomorrow I forgot everything I said to you. It's not my information to keep. They like, they strip it from my brain, they take it away. And then the person comes back and I open their records, let's say 6 months later, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I said to you. I just want to let you know because it's not my information to keep. Imagine if I remembered everything I channeled her. That'd be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of information. So in this case, I tell people, if I need to remember something, when I open your records, it will come to me. But otherwise, I'll ask you if there's something that I said to you in the past that's relevant to what we're going to talk about today. So it's a protective mechanism as well. So we don't use that
It's
information
very good to
for,
know.
yeah, for bad intentions or anything like that. So
I
um
think
yeah.
that Ar Archangel Metatron is the guardian of the Akashic Records. Do you confirm that information?
I don't get that, but I don't think that that's off. I think to me, the records is more like a sacred space. And what I've always understood and seen is more there's this energy around librarians that are protecting that space, that are completely connected to the Akashic realm and every single book. I think the angelic realm in general protects it for sure.
I see.
I'm not really getting that one does that, but I think most, like even just guides, masters are there kind of protecting that
Yeah.
information. Yeah, like when you get a reading from somebody, my masters and guides are here, that person's masters and guides are there, and they're the ones helping me bring down that information. They're assisting me. They're giving that information to me.
Yes, and also they are making sure that the person not access something that will be harmful for them.
Yeah,
The
you're never going to
community
hear
is
something.
always to help. I
Yeah,
just
and
want to tell you
yeah,
something curious about self-doubting, our gifts and abilities.
yeah.
When I start automatic writing, my guide make me write bubble letters.
Really?
Really, it was really funny. What is doing? Making things, just drawing bubble
Mm,
ladders. You know, like what bubble ladders.
yeah,
So I did that for a long time. I understood why. Because I would doubt if it was me or not.
right. That's it. I love that you said
I
that
knew
because
the start
that's just
with
an
bubble
example.
ladders.
That's just an
So
example of how that
okay,
can
that's
come
not
through.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did it for him. I did for almost more than 2 years bubble ladders. And then I started doing so many others, my higher self and everybody actually. And I wouldn't use bubble ladders with them. So I think we can stop the bubble ladders now. That would be
Yeah. It's
faster.
like now if you're trusting, then we don't have to do that anymore, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's such a good example that you're giving there. Like for some people, something like that could be very, very validating, right? It's why am I writing like this? Is because that's not you. It's information you're
Yeah,
channeling, you're
it's not
connecting with.
me. Yeah,
Exactly.
everyone's very creative of this. I know her. If she just started writing,
That's amazing. I
it
love that.
came to my mind. Did
That's
I
good.
make this up?
No, and I think that was my thing. I kept feeling like I was making things up, but I wasn't. That's why it's not like you hear a voice in your head. It's that it's your thoughts that your thoughts are, it's coming into your thoughts. That's the way I like to explain it.
Oh, you know what? I need to put in my battery. I
Okay.
thought I had done, but I didn't. It's good that it let us know. Okay,
Yeah.
safe now. Let's move on to the next question. You kind of already answered this one. How someone can prepare to learn this skill?
I always say find a teacher. Find a teacher because some people learn through a book, right? Linda Howe, was it Linda Howe? Linda Howe, I think. She has a book. I can send you the link if you like. It's on Amazon.
I'd like the link.
Yeah, let me just write that down here so I don't forget because I forget everything.
Okay.
I'll send you the link to that. So if any of your viewers or listeners are interested, some people learn through the book. I personally learned with teachers, so I did several
I
courses with,
prepared too. Yeah.
yeah, because then you have their support, you have their information. They're literally handing over their own opening verses. So as a teacher, you channel your opening verse and you pass that on to your students. Um, I think just finding the right teacher that resonates with how you feel and work, right? Of what you believe. Because like a really good example is my sister on our podcast always talks about how she had first started with a teacher that didn't believe in past lives. But my sister's like, that
Oh,
makes no sense. She's like, no, we don't channel about that. And that was her belief that was
uh-huh.
blocking that. So she later on went and did level 2 with another teacher, completely different experience. She felt like she could channel way better. So I think somebody that you resonate with, right? At where you're at that
That's the
time.
key. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
It's
think
only
also
a
with teachers, like
relationship.
you have to feel comfortable, you have to feel supported. Um, and you don't have to think in the same way that that person does because they're teaching you something new, right? But that their energy resonates with you. I think that's really important.
And after you learn with that person, you always will be guided to kind of move things in your own way
Yes, yes, I love that.
because we are
That's so
all
important.
creators.
Yeah, and I don't think
Yeah,
everybody's here to do it the same way. As long as we honor and respect the person's information, the person we're working with, and the tool, I think people are here to do things very differently. And we encourage, like when
we
I
do
teach the
great.
records, we completely encourage, like, make
Yeah.
this your own, like honor and really respect it, but make it your own because you have your own gifts, and this is just helping you connect with that.
Yeah, I do Reiki in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Many people that I heard, that I experienced, they don't talk through the session. I talk all the time because I want the person to visualize. First,
Um,
to bring their mind back from wandering, and they are using that one power of their mind to heal themselves.
oh, I love
I
that.
think it's very powerful.
Yeah, I think, and maybe your voice has a vibration that helps the person connect and heal as well. We don't know, right? Like we have so
Yeah,
many things that we don't know why we do them, but they could help somebody.
yeah, and I really learned not to self-gas my intuition because I know clear when is my guides and when are my ego. So
Yeah.
if it's come from my guides, I don't know. I don't care what it is I will do. Well, of course I care if they will do something like go and hit somebody, I'm gonna do it. But they're not gonna do that because
They won't do that, no. But I
because
think
they
that's
are
interesting. That's interesting. But I think something I
um,
noticed is
manipulative.
the moment that I started opening my own records is the moment that I started really being able to listen to my intuition.
Mhm. That's great. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
Mama, go go to the room. My son, 8 years old.
Oh.
Okay, don't make a noise, okay?
Oh.
Let's go to the next question. If you can share, what was the experience with your clients that most impacted or surprised you?
Oh, it's such a good question. There's so many moments.
Close the door back now.
There's so many moments. I think this is where I think I've grown a lot as a channel, as a reader, where I would doubt myself like at the beginning. What my teacher always said is whatever you're getting, you have to say it. That's your job as a reader, not to doubt yourself because you
Mhm.
don't know what you might say to somebody that might actually mean something. You don't understand. It's not your information. You're
Yeah,
channeling for them. So you have to get out of the way, right? So there's things I've said in readings that the person would just there's an emotional release, right? They're like, "Oh my gosh, you don't understand what that means to me." And I have no idea, right? I'm just like here, open, channeling. Um, but I think for me, what feels most impactful is when the person asks about like for me, purpose and mission are really important because most of my life I felt so lost. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt like I was going to do something big and help people, but I couldn't figure out what that was. And I was in that energy of like, let me try this, let me try that, which isn't a bad thing, but I think I was barking up a lot of wrong trees, right? Um, so when the records came into my life, it was like everything started making sense. Everything started falling into place. And I started really understanding what it meant to really connect to our gift and to our purpose and our mission. because that transformed my entire energy and like the trajectory of my life, right? And it leads you down another path because one thing leads to the next and the next, right? So where I feel most like is when the person will ask about why they're here and what their purpose and mission is, and what a lot of people that come to me want to help. They want to do something. They feel connected to a gift. So when the person later on, like they'll say something to them, right? Like this is what I see you doing. This is what could be the path, or why don't you try this, right? Or something's coming, trust it, right? And the person will contact me or come back for a reading months later or a year later, and they're like, my life's completely changed. Like that literally makes me want to cry because it's like, wow, but they
Yeah.
did the work. It wasn't about what I said to them through the reading. They actually got out of their own way. They got out of their comfort zone. They trusted, they started listening, and they started taking action on something that they might have just been like, oh, I'm not sure. But their reading validated something that later they were able to trust and move forward with.
Yeah.
And that to me is sometimes it's the simplest messages that sometimes have the biggest impact that later on the person will come back. And I tell people, stay in touch, like email me, tell me how
Mhm.
things are going. Like I won't remember what I challenged, but give me context. So, sometimes also for me, what feels most impactful is when people ask about like loved ones or past lives, or when a past life just comes up in a reading and it clicks for the person where they're like, I understand why my relationship with this person in this life is so hard because we have all this karmic stuff that was never like healed. So now it's here. We have to deal with it. We have to look at it. And it makes sense why the person might be struggling in certain aspects in a relationship or in an aspect of their life. It just validates. It validates a lot, and it helps a person like it clicks, energetically shifts things, and then they can move forward.
You touch something that's very important. Everyone that I'm interviewing, even myself, we are here to help the person learn how to help themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Things will not get resolved to you like a magic,
Mm-mm.
or your higher self will not do all the job for you.
Yeah.
At least you need to allow. That's the minimum you can do. At least
Yeah.
to allow. There will be things and steps that you will have to do, and you will be guided to receive clear guidance. Instead of being walking in circles, you're
Mm.
gonna know when and exactly what to do. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just lie down and take a nap. Isn't that
Yeah,
wonderful?
let it go, integrate. But I love what you just said because that's so true. I've explained it to people, and it's like, I'm not here to heal you. You're here to heal yourself. I'm here to accompany you, to show you, to give you the information. That's not my, I'm not, it's not, you already have all that information within yourself. I'm helping you tap into it so
Yes,
that you can do something with that. You can take action, you can heal, you can let go, you can release, and then you're in charge of your own healing.
that's true.
Hmm.
That's wonderful. Let's move on to the next one. Is there a frequent information that has come up in many of your sessions last year?
Last year.
Yeah. For example, in my case, I feel like a pattern. I do lots of automatic writing to people. I see patterns.
Yeah. The pattern for me is the family system, which is why I went into studying for almost 2 years family constellations. I'm a family constellation therapist practitioner now. I kept the record just kept going into the family, and all of the trauma and all of the things that were getting in the way. Health, people come to me with a lot of health questions, and they will many times bring it to things that they've experienced growing up and things that they need to release or let go of. But they kept kind of bringing up this, we need to heal generational things because otherwise we can't move forward and be in our most elevated energy and in our most like awakened state if we're holding stuff from the past, which we might not even be aware of, right?
Yes, most of the time we are not.
We're not.
And one thing about generational traumas and karma. I'm been releasing a lot of things, and we that are more open to connect to the higher vibrations and energies, we on the family volunteer to take some of those for us.
Yeah.
So another day I start feeling a pain like on my neck,
Mm.
like I had been stabbed on my neck. It was a very
Oh.
weird pain. Wasn't too hard and wasn't really take me from do my things. But I was with that, so I asked my higher self, what is that?
Mm.
What's that about? You are releasing a generational karma. Somebody from your ancestor got stabbed by their own son. I get
Oh.
emotional on that.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
soul, so that's where the trauma came from.
The pain
And
gets
it's
stored in the
releasing.
family system. Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's something we didn't, maybe we or our parents didn't experience, but it could be generations back and it's showing up.
back.
Hmm. And unconsciously it's there. It's there. When you do like a family constellation or an Akashic record reading, that information will come up. If you
Yeah.
ask the right question, because I always say the questions are everything in a reading, it's what helps you use your free will to receive, right? Um, but it can be stored in the body, and a lot of times it can come up in really, really big ways, right? From huge health issues to a family breaking up, or like a pattern that you just cannot get out of. You're just stuck in that pattern and it feels impossible to get out of. But it might not even be yours.
You that being one thing that's very important. You need to ask the question
Hmm.
because of your free will. For example, when I channel for somebody through automatic writing, if you don't give me a question, your higher self, it will give you a generic information of what things it must help you without to go against your free will.
Yeah.
So you need to ask the question. By the moment you ask the question, and then they have the permission to give the information. Even though if it's something that you're not supposed to do to know yet, that will be more harmful than good, they just tell, focus on something else.
Yeah, or they'll
But
kind
you
of
need to ask the
skim
question.
through it. Yeah, they'll give you some information, but you might not be ready for all of it, right? But
Yes.
then generally speaking, this is what I see at least, the person will come back later or they'll go to a different reader. That could happen too. And they'll ask the same question and all of a sudden, I see this with clients,
Yeah.
they ask the same question a year later and all of a sudden all this information's coming through, they're ready.
Yes.
So they only give you the information you're ready for, regardless of you asking that question or not.
And it's also it's like about open your awareness, your consciousness.
Hmm.
You can't know everything. For example, you have a deep belief, and then you need to start to change that belief slowly.
Yeah.
You have one information, you adjust, and then you get more and more. If you get the whole information at the same time, and then you lose contact with the belief you had before, and you are completely lost. So
Yeah.
that's not for your advantage. That's
That's very
why you
true.
have to be
Very
slow.
true. Yeah, and healing isn't I throw everything at you. It's layers. We work through things. It's a slow pace with the soul, right?
So I got very curious now about family constellation. I we may have another interview about that.
Sure, for sure. I would love to talk about
But
that.
if
Yeah.
you can just give us a little bit, a little summary for us, that would be great.
Family constellations is a therapeutic tool. That's the best way I can describe it. That helps kind of deal with issues through the family system. So somebody can come to me because of a pattern, a health issue, dynamics in the family. So we look at all the issues, whatever you bring, through the family system, through the soul of the family. You connect to that information and it brings up things in the most, I don't know, like I don't even have a word for it, in the most beautiful way. But what I love about family constellations is what's involved is a lot of healing phrases and elements that represent things. So the person feels into the energy, feels into things, there's healing phrases, and it moves, it shifts. Like I always give this example of how much it's helped me because I've been getting family constellations for years, almost at the same amount of time as Akashic Records.
Mhm.
So I'd go for physical issues. I had a pain in my hip for a year and a half. I got an MRI. I was doing physiotherapy. I was doing acupuncture. Nothing. This pain would not go away. So I went into a family constellation to see where's this pain coming from? I don't understand, right? I want to heal this. And when we start going into the records, sorry, to the family constellation energy, the family system, it comes up that I was holding on to my mother's pain of her losing her brother, so my uncle.
Oh,
I had no idea. Like I had no
yeah.
idea. But I look back, I'm like, wow, there was a part of me because he died very young in his 30s. And there's a part of me, I was around 30 around that time. So I think there's a part of me that felt like if that happened to him, it'll happen to me. But I had seen my mom so sad. I'd never seen her that sad before. And there was a part of me that held on to that and was holding on to
Mhm.
her pain because I didn't want her to carry it. It's unconscious, right?
Yes.
So I released that. I released that in that session. The pain went away the next day. It never came back. So
Oh,
that's
that's
just one example, but we can talk about like I've healed grief through like grief that I was holding on to for a friend passing, and the session helped me move that. It can be for many reasons, right? Or
yeah.
why am I not attracting the right person in my life, my partner, or like health issues, everything. You can pretty much constellate anything, but everything's looked through the lens of the family system
I
and
see.
ancestors, a family, and we move energy. We actually move energy, which is what I felt I was missing with the records. Not that it didn't move energy, it's just I needed to go deeper and I couldn't. I didn't have the tools.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can we go a little bit more technical? Do you use your intuition, visualization? What is the ability behind how you tap in that energy?
Primary constellations.
Yes.
You're connecting to, yeah, it's a spiritual energy, I would say. Like you're connecting to the family system, but there's different ways to do family constellation. You can do it with elements. There's like these little dolls that represent different people in your family. You can do it in a group setting where physical people represent like your mother, your father. So it's like the field shows you everything, like the family system, the field that you're working in. Because if you're working in a group, you're going to be in a big room. There's going to be a space where you work. If you're working with me on Zoom, I use a little table, and we have the elements that represent different people depending on the constellation. Um, for me, there's an element it's not really intuition, it's just information that comes in. And then the person is the one that discovers all of that because I ask the questions and then they feel into it and then they understand.
Mhm.
It's hard to explain. It's
I think we're gonna leave here. I'm curious to know. I definitely will gonna interview you again about that if you want.
for sure, and I can show you the
Let
elements
people
and
curious a
everything.
little
Yeah.
bit and digest a little bit about Akashic Records. I'm
Mhm.
sure many of you never heard about a family constellation. I happen to have heard, but not even that long ago. So
Yeah.
I'm also curious to know more about. So you kind of already tap into that, but what are your other services? Can you just list them, some more of them?
Yeah, so I do Akashic record readings. I do Akashic counseling. It's kind of like this, my clients kind of led me in that direction. So it's I connect the person's records, Akashic records, but it's more a place that people can talk through things with me through the records. So
I
somebody
see.
can bring a couple topics, say, I'm struggling with this in my life. I need to talk through it, and the wisdom of the records can come in.
I
So
see.
it feels like more like a counseling therapy session. I also offer psychic and mediumship readings. They're not the traditional psychic and mediumship readings. I do it through the
Business
records.
cards? No,
I do I
the
use the records, yeah. I connect to like if somebody comes to me in a reading, like an Akashic record reading and they ask about somebody, I can connect to their energy through the person's record. So I do it's similar in the psychic and mediumship sense. And then obviously family constellations now, and I'm also a flower essence therapist. So I help people by creating specific flower essence formulas personalized to them and what they're going through and what they need help with or support with.
Oh, I
So
guess
it's
that's another
basically
interview because, and
flower essences are
I think I
amazing.
heard about it, but I have no idea how that works.
They're amazing. They've also helped me a lot in my life, and I have a lot of clients that have received so much help through the flowers. They're very gentle, they're very just supportive. It's not like homeopathy. I think a lot of people think of, oh, if flowers like homeopathy, no. Homeopathy, sometimes things get worse before they get better.
Mhm.
Flowers are not the case. What flowers do is bring you back into your center, back into homeostasis. And I tend to use the flowers more as a like accompanying a session. So a lot of times I'll channel flowers in a reading. I'll be like, "Are you interested in doing a flower, like taking flower essences?" And they'll be like, "Yeah." And I'll put a little formula together for them. Or they come on a call with me and I ask them some questions. They tell me what they need help with, and I create the formula. Um, and then I do a little bit of hypnosis, but it's with the records. So I open the person's records and they bring their questions and I help them connect to their soul so they can find the answers. I tend to only do those sessions with people that are already channeling or trying to channel or connect to their gifts.
I see.
Otherwise, I tend to find that people get quite stuck and I end up just channeling through their records the entire time.
Wow, that's wonderful. I think I could have like 50 interviews with with you, because you know so much about everything. We can have one just about how to find your purpose,
Oh my
how
gosh,
to get in alignment with your mission.
that would be a great conversation.
Wow,
Yeah.
probably would be fun.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah,
about it.
for sure.
So the last one, how people can find you.
Well, the best place is either my website, so www.lorenaespiga.com.
I'm gonna
They're all
put
my
in the description of this interview.
amazing. And then my Instagram. Those are the two places where I'm most active, and you can contact me. My contact form is on both Instagram and on my website. My Instagram's Lorena Espiga _wellness. I do have a Facebook. I also use that. And then obviously the podcast. My sister and I have a podcast, the Soul Tribe podcast. It's a little slow these days. We're both quite busy, but we still keeping it alive. So, and we teach, right? So you can also contact me through my courses. Um, but usually Instagram's the easiest place or my contact form to get in touch or see my services. Yeah.
Wow, Lorena, that's was so fast.
Yeah.
I feel like it was only 50 minutes and we've been talking
I
for
know.
about almost an hour.
Yeah,
That was great. I'm very, very happy that you accepted my invitation.
of
I
course.
had a good time, and I think we talk about lots of great things that will really connect to people, that people will resonate. Thank
Yeah.
you. And
Yeah.
I really love to see you again in another interview.
Whenever you like,
Would
just
like
let me
to
know.
direct, do you have a message, whoever is listening to? Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I think a couple things. Like I would say if you are interested in the Akashic records, like look into it because I think some people have an idea in their mind of what they are, but it can be a tool for self-development. It can be a tool to find peace. It can be a tool to get to know yourself better. And that's what it was for me at a specific point in my life. But also I think there's so much going on in the world. I always like to give this message. It's kind of coming through my records really, but like it is important for us to also really lean into our gifts and why we're here because I think that is how we're going to be able to vibrate and manifest and create the life that really helps us feel fulfilled. So it doesn't matter that you might not know that right now, but I can guarantee you that you can get there as long as you're open, to trying things and asking the right questions. I think we're all here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. So it's just our responsibility and our work to find that out, to figure that out, right?
Yes. Thank you very much. I definitely loved that interview.
Thank you
I
so much
think
for
that
having
will
me.
be the first of many.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So if you still didn't push the like button, do it. If you want to, of course, because we respect your free will.
Yes.
And share with people that doesn't know what are curious about Akashic Records. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and Lorena's channel. And I hope to see you for our next interview. That will decide which one will be, if it's the life's purpose or the family constellation.
Love it. Yes. Thank you so much.